Good evening, everybody. It's John here from Tutor to You, welcoming you along to the second in our little mini-series of revision blasts, thinking specifically about paper one and looking at some mixed micro topics. Big warm welcome to those of you who are joining us tonight, and very, very warm welcome to those of you who are with us on Monday night as well. Great to see some of you back tonight. And also a big warm welcome to anybody who's watching this on replay. And we know hundreds and hundreds have been watching these after they've been recorded and are available. Now, just a real quick reminder as well to those of you who are looking for some extra support with your revision for your A-level in economics. The Tutor to You Grade Booster 2023 online digital course is available and plenty of videos on there, plenty of extra resources for anybody looking for some extra support as well. So don't miss out on that if you're looking for something else to help you. Now, we've got 30 minutes of fast-paced activities looking at various micro topics, and I'm joined tonight by Penny in the middle of the screen and Nikki on the right-hand side. Good evening, both.
Good evening.
So, as if you've not been to one of these before, what we like to see as we're going through the questions is as many answers as possible from students using the chat window. So please do feel happy to join in if you feel as if you know the answer to some of our questions. I think we might be ready. Shall we get cracking, guys?
Let's get cracking.
Let's go.
Okay, we're going to start with 3 multiple choice questions. So let's get cracking straight away. Question 1. We have got, if the 5-firm concentration ratio is 8%, the market structure is such that. So this is testing you on theory of the firm, testing you on market structures, 5-firm concentration ratio of 8%. So we got answers flooding in straight away from Ash and Kelsey and Will and Aaron. Well done indeed. So let's have a look. If it's a 5-firm concentration ratio of just 8%, is likely to be highly contestable. Very easy for new entrants to join the market. So pleased to see the Tutor to You collective coming in with those correct answers straight away. That's fantastic. Well done indeed. Let's crack straight on to question 2. Which measure would lead to greater contestability in the bus transport market? So we are asking here again about greater contestability. So how easy is it for new firms to join this market? Which measure would allow greater contestability? So I've got lots of answers. A coming through, fair access for all operators with bus stations. Let's have a look at the actual answer. You're absolutely right, fair access to all operators. So of course, what does this mean? This means lowering barriers to entry. So giving fair access to all operators means that we will have easier or lower barriers to entry, allowing more firms to join the market, allowing for greater contestability. So that makes the incumbent firms a little bit more efficient in their operations. Okay, flying start, loads and loads of answers. Okay, now we've got a diagram question. Costs and revenue, so we've got theory of the firm diagram. The diagram below represents a business which is a profit maximizer. The business fears the impact of new competitors. What is the minimum price they are likely to charge in order to deter new competitors from entering this market? So we're looking for deterring new competitors. So lots of answers flooding in as I'm talking. Answer C is coming in from MZ Het. Nice to see you again. Aaron, Christopher, Cornell coming in. Will Stubbs is in. Alice is in with C. Answer C. Now C is where average cost is equal to average revenue, and at that price normal profit only is made. So the answer is indeed price C. Remember, that is in effect limit pricing. So this firm is choosing a price that's as low as possible, making only normal profit. And that should hopefully deter new competitors who might actually have higher costs than them, than the incumbent firm, because they haven't yet got economies of scope or have not yet got good suppliers in the market and so forth. Okay, I am handing over to Penny.
Thanks very much, Nikki. And it looked to me as if good few people, or a lot of people, are on sort of 100% correct so far. So let's see if we can keep that up with some questions in the bubble quiz. So many of you, I suspect, are quite familiar with the format for this now. We're going to give you a question. And let's have a look at the first question you've got coming up here. And this is asking you, which of the following are features of monopsony markets? So start getting your head around the theory of monopsony. The thing here is that it could be that all of the answers we've given you are correct, or none of them, or one or two or three of them. So you have to have a careful look at all four of them and work out how many of those you think are correct answers to which of the following are features of monopsony markets. So this takes a moment to have a look through. Give yourselves a little bit of time to make sure. And I can see lots of answers coming through already. You're pretty consistent. I think the first one, I can see lots of people coming up with A, B, C. Some saying A and B, somebody saying B and C. Okay, let's have a look at the correct answers, please. There we go. So those of you who said all three of A, B, and C correct, well done. The point here, D is not correct because actually it's the opposite of what's true. The reduced cost of purchases increases monopsony profit margins. So what we're saying here is monopsony power exists in both product and labour markets. Okay. And monopsony has buying or bargaining power in their market. So that's a description of the type or definition of what monopsony power means. And what C is saying to you, that monopsony can exploit their bargaining power to gain lower prices from retailers. That's kind of an extension or a logical progression in the chain of reasoning explaining what monopsony power means. Okay, let's have a look at the next question then. And this one sticks with the idea of monopsony. So which of these is a feature of monopsony employer? It could be all four of them, as I said, it could be none of them, or it could be just a selection. So thinking about monopsony markets, particularly in the labour markets here, monopsony employers. Okay, I can see lots of answers coming up. Some saying B and D, B, C, D. So B is very consistent there, but lots of different suggestions as to what you want to add on to that are. So let's see what the correct answer is here, please, John. Yeah, good. B, C, and D. So those of you who got all three of those up, well done. So just to take a quick look through, why is A correct here, where it says there's poor information in the market which can transfer power to the suppliers of labour? No, the point about monopsony market is that the suppliers of labour are the ones who lack the power in the market. The power is in the hands of the buyer, which is the monopsony employer. And that tends to mean that they'll employ fewer people than if it was in a competitive labour market. And also they tend to pay relatively lower wages. Somebody's asking if C is an assertion. Yes, in that if you were to write that and D as well, as somebody else, Arian is asking about C and D both being an assumption. Yes, absolutely right. And if you were to write just those statements in your answers with no further explanation, yeah, you would get very little credit for that because they are assumptions, they're making assertions. So you would need to go on and explain what you meant by each of those statements in order to get credit for analysis. Okay, I think we've got one more bubble quiz question coming up for you here. Here we go. So we're sticking with labour market here. Which of the following labour market features is likely to result in wages that are lower than the free market equilibrium wage? Okay, so we've got four options for you there. Have a look at all three of them. Okay. So let's have a look at some of the answers coming through. So Inspector Slim is first up with A and D. Joshua says A, Ash says A. Het Patel is going A and D. So A and D are both looking pretty popular here. Let's have a look at the correct answers this time. Oh, it's just A. So well done to those of you who identified A. So again, just to quickly run through those. A is the point because with a monopsony employer, the power is in the hands of the employer. And so they can offer a lower wage than what a free market or a competitive market would offer in a similar sort of employment situation. So for B, rising trade union density is likely to result in wages being pushed up a bit higher, actually, maybe than the free market equilibrium. Likewise, the introduction of a national minimum wage for C. The whole point of national minimum wage is that it should be above the free market equilibrium. And finally, the higher wage elasticity for labour might mean that there's a low wage, but it would be potentially at the equilibrium. So it doesn't mean necessarily that it's lower than the free market equilibrium. Okay. So let's have a look at the next questions, which are going to extend that idea of looking at chains of reasoning. So we're sticking with monopsonies here, and we're going to give you 4 sentences to form a chain of analysis. We want a logical chain of reasoning to explain an effect of monopsony power. So what we're looking for here is some practice of developing your chains of logic, which all of the exam boards are looking at in order to give you good marks for your question. So here you've got 4 sentences, but they're not in the right order. So can you have a look at these, please, and see what do you think is the best order that you could put these in to have a chain of reasoning to explain an effect of monopsony power? Okay. Right. Ash is quickly up there again. So lots of other people following. Joshua, I'm losing. It's coming up so quickly now. I'm losing the names so they go past me. Okay. But I think all of you, without an exception, are going 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's have a look at whether that's the correct order that we'd like to suggest. Well done. Spot on. 4, 3, 2, 1. So actually, what we could now do is add in some linking words to this. So we could start by saying a monopsony has bargaining power when purchasing from suppliers. We could say this means that a monopsony, in theory, can use their purchasing power to negotiate lower prices for raw materials and other inputs. Let's extend that a bit further in our chain of reasoning. We say, as a result, variable costs of production will be lower, and this will lead to a decrease in marginal and average total costs. And consequently, consumers may benefit from lower prices, which will increase their consumer surplus. So what we're doing here is extending into the idea that some of you were referring to earlier, avoiding making just an assumption or just an assertion, and actually leading through a logical process of explaining how the monopsony power has bargaining power leads through to the consequence, which consumers may benefit from lower prices, which will increase their consumer surplus. So well done, all of you who came up with those correct answers. I think loads of you are coming up with all correct answers. Let's go back to Nikki and see if you can keep that up.
Okay, well done, everybody. Just a quick response to some of the questions. You were asking about the monopsony diagram and using it with a business. Of course, you've got to just try this and look at it. But of course, when you've got if you flatten the MRPL curve, you also have a marginal revenue curve in there. So play about with the diagram and you'll see that it doesn't quite work. But well done for trying to think about that sort of stuff. That's fantastic. Okay, let's go on to categorize. You've got 60 seconds to separate these key phrases into 2 categories. So we're going on to labour. I want you to think about relatively elastic labour, supply of labour being relatively elastic and supply of labour being relatively inelastic. 60 seconds, here we go. Categorise. Okay, brilliant answers coming in here. So when we're thinking about what makes the supply of labour relatively elastic is how quickly can the supply of labour react to a change in wages. Now, remember, wages can go up and there'll be lots of supply in, or wages might fall and then the supply disappears elsewhere. So what we're looking for, let's see the answers, please, John, is what makes things relatively elastic is that the job requires few qualifications. So you can very easily step into that role or step out of it if the wages go down. Job requires little retraining. So if you're moving staff around internally in your business, you need little retraining. They can very quickly pick up those new jobs. And it has good career prospects that will attract a lot of new staff, new individuals wanting to work in that industry. Whereas inelastic, high degree of training, you only have to think about becoming a doctor or a vet or a lawyer, how long that takes. If it's inelastic in the short run, people don't have time to change. They don't have time to think about it so quickly. If we're only looking at a change in wages next month, then people might be stuck in contracts and so forth. If the job is a vocation, so that only attracts certain people, like us, of course, wanting to be teachers to help you out this week before your exams. So if there's a large vocational element, such as nursing or teaching or social work, then the labour supply is relatively inelastic. And then finally, high house prices, which you'll know about, and the job requires antisocial working hours. A lot of people really, really don't want to do that. Okay, well done indeed on that.
Yes, well done indeed. And getting your heads around those factors which impact elasticity, wage elasticity of demand and supply for labour is a really sensible thing to do. Okay, we've got 3 more multiple choice questions for you here. And I know that you all did really well on the first set. So let's see if you can keep that up on the second set. So first of all, in which of the following circumstances will a firm cease production in the short run? A, B, C, or D. And lots of people coming through with A. Yep, okay, let's have a look at the correct answer. And it is indeed A. Well done. Okay, so take care to practice your understanding of when firms will cease production or what will cause a firm to cease production in the short run and why, and to make sure that you can explain the difference between the need to cover total average cost and the need to cover in the short run average variable cost, but not necessarily fixed cost. Okay, so looking through the other answers, question or answer D is sort of not relevant. That's just wrong. When price is below fixed cost, again, that's going to be just wrong in this case. And B, when price is below average cost, that's not giving enough. We need more detail in that. And it's average variable cost, which is relevant in the short run, because businesses are going to have to pay their fixed costs regardless of whether they produce or not. So if you're not quite sure on that one, go back over your notes and make sure that you can explain it. Good, let's go on to the next question. So now we're on to supernormal profit. And note the word best in capital letters here. The supernormal profit of a firm is best described as which of these 4? Right, you've been very quick on some of these answers so far. Let's see who's coming up with the correct answer, or with any answer. I go at the answer first to this one. Kelsey has through first. Well done. And Het Patel and Arian and Yasser, and then lots of other people following. And again, you're all going for the same one here. You're all going for D. Let's see if they've got it right, John. You have. Well done. Okay. So the point here is the difference between supernormal and normal profit. And profit earned above the minimum required to stay in the business is how we would define supernormal profit. Whereas A, the profit needed to keep the firm's factors of production in their current use, well, that's the normal profit. That's the minimum required to stay in the business. So again, it's a really good idea to make sure that you can easily and efficiently explain the difference between normal and supernormal profit, and also why normal profit is okay and will allow businesses at least to stay in business because they're making the best possible use of their resources, their factors of production. Okay, one more to go here. Oh, Sir Jameson, you're asking what is supernormal profit? Yes, it is precisely anything over and above the benefit or the all of your physical costs and then the economic costs, which is the opportunity cost of the use of those resources. Okay, question 3. Have a look at this one about a firm with a downward sloping demand curve changing its output level. Why would they change that objective? Ariane's quick in here again. Oh, we've got some different answers coming up this time. I can see B's and C's and D's. That's interesting. Okay, let's have a look at the correct answer, and it is C. Okay, so this one is maybe sort of dividing opinion a bit more. So C is correct here. That's because even if it's not the maximum profit, if you think about the diagram, and when you get a multiple choice question like this on an exam paper, the really important thing to do is just quickly sketch the diagram at the side of the paper. It doesn't have to be a brilliant sketch, but just something that shows you where each of those points are going to be. So remember, sales maximization is where AR equals AC. And that's actually where you're making normal profit, not supernormal profit. So it cannot be A. Revenue maximization is where the marginal revenue line crosses the x-axis. That's where you're going to be having maximum total revenue. Okay, and if you practice drawing diagrams, you'll see that you are making some supernormal profits at that point, even if you're not maximizing the profit that you could make. Okay, so lots of things for you to go back, practice, and check there. Let's take you back now to Nikki for some really good work on some analysis.
Right, here we go. We've got a question here, an on-balance question. So we want you to put arguments for and arguments against. Check the arguments against on the left, arguments for on the right. One argument against the use of price discrimination and one argument for, but we want you to put the answer in context. So use of price discrimination by rail operators. So these are your train companies, your LNER, your First Great Western, the train companies, TransPennine. Who uses that? Anyone? So we want arguments against why these rail operators shouldn't use price discrimination and an argument for. So we want your arguments in context because it's far too easy to just write down arguments for and arguments against. We want them in context. So let's have a look. Jacob's come in. Inequitable. Adults have to pay more than children. You're absolutely right for exactly the same seat. But maybe there's an argument that actually children don't have an income. Let's have a look. Aaron says against, people might end up using more taxis or purchase cars. Okay, Yas has come in with that's flashed past, it's gone. Wow, look at these answers. How fantastic is this? Ollie, against, exploits some consumer groups as it reduces consumer surplus of adult peak time travellers. What a stunning answer. Alistair Smart, can reduce demand for using busy peak times, a more comfortable journey. Okay, let's have a think about arguments against for rail operators. So, possible use of cheap daytime tickets could be a barrier to entry to rival firms such as bus companies. So that's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Thinking outside of just the trains and the rail industry, thinking about substitute products, bus companies. The classic one that a lot of you are coming up with, exploitation of commuters because they have to pay the high prices. These consumers often have little choice about their route to work. So it is exploitation. So these are arguments against price discrimination. Now, more tricky is coming up with arguments for. Why should we let rail operators use price discrimination? So George's come in with another argument for against arbitrage. Okay, I'm not sure you can resell your tickets, so I'm not sure about that one. So let's have a look. Aaron says for dynamic efficiency as supernormal profits is made, so reinvest into improving trains and railways. Well, that's very true. Don't forget cross-subsidisation. When you're talking about price discrimination, cross-subsidisation is a key argument for. So it will allow those train operating companies to run those Sunday morning trains. You've seen them. There's about 4 people on there. It's loss-making. But charging more on a Monday to Friday morning allows them to run that Sunday service. Also, the cross-subsidy, potential for cross-subsidy activities that bring social benefits. So running those trains during the day, they might not be quite so profitable using those trains during the day, but it gets people off the roads, and therefore there's social benefits to other road users. Or it might be cross-subsidising freight trains. So therefore there is less lorries on the road, and therefore you are improving the road system, and there's more social welfare benefits elsewhere. Now, before John clicks off this question, I really, really want you to download this PowerPoint and think about this question, but substitute in, instead of rail operators, think about electricity companies and using price discrimination with perhaps prepayment meters, charging more for those. Why is that allowed? Is there benefits and are there arguments for and against? How about using pharmaceutical companies? They charge more for their pharmaceuticals in developed countries than they do in developing countries. Perhaps you could try this question again in that context, or using cinema and leisure price discrimination. So don't throw away these questions, think, oh, I've done that. Try in your own time in this next week, applying it to different markets. Okay, I shall hand back.
Thanks, Nikki. And I think that's excellent, really good, valuable advice. And it would be a really good exercise to apply some of these questions to different contexts and see how that alters the way in which you analyse them. John, could we please, I hope if we can do this, can we just go back to the third question of the multiple choice? Because I did see a question going through from somebody about couldn't B also be a correct answer. Is it possible just to zap back? Thank you very much. There we go. So we're saying that C is the correct answer for which is the most likely explanation of why a rational firm would do that. And it was switching from sales max at AC equals AR to revenue max at marginal revenue equals zero. And the point here is, yes, the firm might want to increase its price, and certainly at revenue maximization, they would have a higher price than they would at sales maximization. But again, it's this sort of technique with multiple choice questions, is that what they're saying, which is the most likely explanation of why a rational firm would do that. And C, saying that they want to make supernormal profits, where at sales max, they would only be making normal profits. And the reason to switch to revenue maximization would enable them to make supernormal profits is a better explanation for the rational firm. Remember that we assume that a rational business is going to want to maximize or to make supernormal profits. So that's the reason that we're saying C rather than B. And it's another example of thinking about the detail and the depth that you should go into in your answers. Okay, many thanks, John. Let's go on now to that evaluate wheel and quickly have a look to finish off with some evaluation practice in this question or in these questions. So we're going to give you a line of argument that is something that potentially a student could have said as part of an answer to an essay question. And then we're going to give you one of these 6 different ways of evaluating that response. So thinking about how you can approach your evaluation. So here's the first one for you. The student argument. What the student has analysed is the use of an indirect tax is an effective method of internalising the negative externality of consuming sugary drinks. And now this student needs to evaluate that argument. So let's spin the wheel and see which one of those 6 random areas we're going to come up with as our method of evaluation. Okay, so we're looking for the impact on equality or equity as to how you might evaluate that piece of analysis about the indirect tax being an effective method of internalising the negative externality. What have you got here as your suggestions for the impact on equality and equity? Okay, TS has said specific taxes are regressive. Okay, Joshua is agreeing, Alice also, and R and Yasa. Okay, regressive is the word that's coming up most frequently here, and that's really good to see. So our suggestion is this. As a possible answer, what we're looking for is indirect taxes are regressive and affect low-income households the most. Okay. Other policies, this answer then goes on even better to say other policies may be more effective without impacting unfairly, such as the regulation of advertising. So this is really nice as an extension of the evaluation by offering a better way in which the effect could be achieved without having that negative effect of a regressive taxation affecting low-income households. So great. Well done, all of those who came up with that. Okay, here's your last one. The use of subsidies, different question here, students looking at the use of subsidies to support the cost of childcare can be an effective way of encouraging more people to find jobs and help reduce the issues relating to a lack of supply of labour in some industries. Okay, this is something which is sort of relating to some of the measures that were in this year's budget. Let's spin the wheel and have a look at what the wheel is going to select for you to evaluate with this time. We're going for, okay, what will the outcome depend on? That's a classic method of evaluating. Thinking about what that outcome of encouraging people to find jobs would depend on. Okay, what will the outcome depend on? Okay, we've got a number of different suggestions here. Monopsony, somebody says, can you explain, Rax, what you mean by that? Arian is talking about demographic of the population. Danny says depends on whether demand is elastic or inelastic. You're talking demand for labour, I guess, there. We've got elasticity of labour supply. Someone else is going for PES. Okay, let's have a look at our suggestion here. And we're going to say that it might depend on whether those finding jobs have the skills and also the desire to find work in those industries with labour supply problems. So we're looking very specifically about trying to get into the application of this, thinking what is that market which is lacking labour supply, and will those people have the skills and desire even if you give them the subsidy to come back to work? So yeah, many of you were in the right areas there. Well done. Okay.
Super stuff. Thank you, Penny. Thank you, Nikki. Just looking at some of the responses coming through on the chat there. Absolutely brilliant answers. Thank you so much to everybody who's responded tonight and coming with some suggestions for us. Wonderful, brilliant answers. Of course, a massive big thank you as well to Penny and Nikki for delivering tonight. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Lovely to do it.
A quick reminder to you that the PowerPoint we've been using is available for you to download if you want to download. What happens with the Tutor to You live streams, as soon as they're finished, they become replays. If you look tonight up in the replay section on our live streams, you'll then be able to download the PowerPoints of any of the live streams that we've done in the past. If you found tonight useful, it'd be really great if you give us a thumbs up on YouTube. That really helps get our message out there to as many people as possible. Don't forget this has been recorded, so if you want to spend a little bit more time over some of the suggestions and answers that Nikki and Penny have been giving us tonight, then you can do so at your will. We're back again on Monday and we would love to see you there, so please do join us then. Until then, good luck to the Sky Blues on Sunday and we'll see you all on Monday. Goodbye, everybody.
See you.